Hey everyone. How you doing? I'm steady turning down every sound I can find. Welcome everyone. I'm glad you're here. We are live and what we're doing is we're changing our format a little bit here on Rainbow Soul. So you may have noticed that we've already posted this week's forecast on the YouTube channel as an actual video post. Hopefully you can watch it. I will put the link in the comments for you. So if you are looking for that and you're like, what, where is it? The link is right here. This will take you directly to this week's forecast. And I would also suggest that you check out the shorts area, which it will have all of the horoscopes for everyone, regardless of what your horoscope is. Um, and we this week I think we're in for actually some blessings. I think this is a good week. I think it's actually a lot of stuff going on. What did you think, Brett Hawk? What do you think of the week overall?
Well, seeing Pluto come out of retrograde has to feel like, okay. And when a planet comes in or out of retrograde, that stationary moment on either side is when everyone feels it the most. So this week is when we're all going to feel that Pluto is totally coming to a standstill, doing that stationary, and then it'll start moving directly. Now, of course, the planets don't exactly move backwards. Retrograde is a terminology we use. I always say, think about like when you're pulling up to a stoplight and someone else is slowing down and you're slowing down at different rates or taking off at different rates. It has the illusion of one person going backwards as the other one goes forwards, right? So that's the illusion that we're talking about. So it's a really big deal. And the other thing that's a big deal is Venus has come back to her rulership in Libra. Venus does not like being in Virgo, so it's very challenged. It's what we call in fall or detriment in Virgo. So now that Venus has moved into Libra, moved into Libra, that is a really positive thing. So Venus is blessing up everyone. And then, of course, there's that grand trine in air. So, thinking in new ways, broadening your thinking, changing your thinking, stuff like that. That grand trine that's really dominant the first 4 days of the week, I think is hopefully a big blessing for everyone. The other thing I would say is that as we get towards the end of the week, we have a void of course moon all day on Thursday, which means low emotional energy. So you might get a lot done. And the other thing that we see for Saturday and Sunday is there's a T-square with Jupiter that could potentially challenge. It could help create the energy for change, hopefully in a good way. But the reason why we're also a little concerned about it, because we also have Mercury, communication, Mars, god of war, conjunct this week. And I think it perfects on Thursday. So that has some intense energy to it for sure. So being mindful of your words and how you speak truth, because it's happening in Scorpio. Scorpio is a truth teller for sure, but not always maybe kind in the way that things come out. Sometimes it's necessary. And that's a question. Is it necessary? Is it for the highest good? Is it kind? Is it true? Things that help us check before we blurt something out. Yeah. So I think we have a lot of blessings with that grand trine and some potentially challenging energies as well towards the end of the week. What would you say?
I'm glad that I'm glad that Pluto's going direct, like you said. Um, and Pluto, although Pluto's energy, I was feeling like, as I've been watching Pluto go in and out of signs and back and forth over the last couple of years, what I've noticed is that it's usually kind of like, it's like a momentum. It's something that like happens. It's almost like when you think of like a tsunami, right? And the earthquake happens, and then what the tsunami comes, you know, hours, days later, right? Okay. And so that's kind of, I feel like that's Pluto. That's Pluto. And I'm wondering about this weekend. I'm wondering about like what's going to happen. There's like the protests and things like that. I feel like those protests are just going to create like it's going to be like a tsunami. Like I feel like Pluto's pushing and pushing for change, and it's going direct today. So I think that's really good energy. I think Venus in Libra, you would have thought I would have had a much easier morning, but then I was thinking about it for a minute and I was like, no, because the person that I had the hardest time with is in Aries. And she has like 4 placements in Aries. And I'm like, of course, because Libra's opposite everything she has in Aries. So of course I'm having a little bit of a frustrating day with her. And I was just laughing about that. Even though Venus is usually a pretty soft or benefit planet, but I did feel like I did make some breakthroughs. Hard, but I made breakthroughs. Probably not very easy for her, but I feel like I still made some breakthroughs. And since I'm her teacher, that feels good, right? So you have to make breakthroughs, and you have to feel good about it. And so if you're a Libra, all the horoscopes have been posted on the YouTube page. I posted them, I edited them up. I feel like that's an easier way for you guys to access the horoscopes. And hopefully you've already taken a look at this week's. We posted it yesterday, posted it actually last night. And that's that's available on the YouTube page. And like I said, the link to that is down in the comments. If you have any questions about your astrology chart, that's what today is about. It's all about a sort of astrology 101, if you will. If there's something about your astrology chart or something about these transit you'd like to ask, this is why we're here. This is why we're doing the live this way, just so we could slim up the amount of time that we're spending in different areas, focus in on that weekly horoscope, focus in on the horoscopes. And now here we are offering a question and answer. So like I said, Venus is moving in. We said already Pluto is going direct in Aquarius. Libra has Venus has moved into Libra, its ruling planet, its ruling sign. So that's usually a blessing, right? Okay. And so you should check out where is Aquarius in your chart, because that's going to be a longer process. But if you've been struggling with something that's really been kind of messed up, wherever Aquarius is, it will probably start to get better. Okay. So wherever Aquarius is in your chart. And then with Libra, you want to look and see where's Libra in my chart, because Venus is there. So it's bringing in some blessings. And then also there's a grand trine with a whole bunch of stuff, and that's involving Venus. So that's a blessing. And then of course, then there's also a T square later this week. And the best way is to lean into your Cancer placement. So take a look and see where Cancer rules. What house does Cancer rule in the house that it starts? So the houses are the little pieces of pie in your astrology chart. So if you get your circle chart, you'll see that each one of them, it starts on the left-hand side. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way around. And it starts on the left and goes down and around. And each one of those pieces of the pie, the inner circle is usually the marking for your astrology chart. And so that's the houses, the 1 through 12. And this is the area. So 1 starts with the arrow that's pointing left, and that arrow sort of kicks off that house. And that's how you know that's your rising sign. And that also kicks off your first house. So that's usually what sign rules your first house. And then if you look at the next line down, that's the beginning of house number 2, right? So what sign is there? What sign is marked there? And that kicks off your second house. So what you're looking for is Libra. And Libra has that very notable sign. And I guess we don't have a Libra sign, do we? But Libra kind of looks like it's usually represented by scales or something that kind of represents scales. And so Libra tends to be all about balance and relationships. And with Venus there, that's just going to amplify that. So you want to take a look and see where is that in your chart and where is Cancer. Cancer usually kind of looks like a 6 and a 9, kind of like this. Okay. And you can find that in your chart as well. It's a water sign. Libra is an air sign. So if you have any comments or questions about your astrology chart, you can put those in the comments. We'd love to hear about it. If you have any questions about this week's transits, or about your astrology chart specifically, you can even post your astrology chart and I'll take a look at it. So if you have any questions, please post them now. Otherwise, we'll just wrap this up and it'll be over. So like I said, you can tap into the into this week's forecast along with each one of the horoscopes in the shorts area of that channel. So if you go to that link, takes you to YouTube. If you go to the shorts, you'll see all of the shorts in YouTube for each and every one of those horoscopes.
And the reason we're trying to do these Q&As is because I believe astrology is incredibly personal. That's what it means the most to you. It's about you, your chart, which is why we put together a little job aid that can help you understand your basics, your sun, moon, and sun, moon, and rising. And if you're interested in diving deeper, we also have an Astrology 101 class. That's a 5-hour, 5-part series. You can learn at your own pace, and it really walks you through how to understand the houses, how to understand each sign and their rulership, how to understand transits, all of the language that can tend to be cumbersome at the beginning of astrology, because it really is a language. And those of us who have spent time learning astrology, it usually takes years and years to feel really comfortable with the language of astrology. And if you've never given yourself an astrology reading, if you're having a tough time at all in your life, or maybe it's your birthday and you're having your annual solar return, what's the next year going to hold for me? Getting an astrology reading can be so helpful. It's such a great gift to give yourself. No joke. And I happen to believe that Hollis is extremely gifted at being able to do that. So give yourself a gift, get an astrology reading, and have an opportunity to A, save yourself some time, and B, fall more in love with you. Be able to lean into the things that make you really special. And so when we take the time to do our zodiac and we look at our personal sun sign, but also our rising sign, because you can't get into astrology without talking about rising signs and why they are so important. That's what we listen for. That's how we can best apply what's being offered here for your best value. So we love talking to you about astrology. We love answering any questions, and I love hearing how it's going for you. And if you can put your questions in the comments, we're always happy to answer them. And we're really grateful that you've supported Rainbow Soulstrology. It's now been a podcast for 2 years. Can you believe it? Is that right? Yeah.
Well, actually, Bright Hawk, before we started doing astrology, me and Lacrosse did years of all sorts of spiritual topics and interviewed spiritual people all during the pandemic. So there's an entire history on YouTube if you go back and look. It's an interesting history. You can even find us also on podcast platforms such as Spotify, and you can see our history there. So if you have an interest in any particular spiritual topic, we probably covered it and interviewed someone about it. So you could probably find it there. And Samantha asked, so what is Cancer showing us this week in our chart? Thanks for asking that question, Samantha. What a great question, because that's the big T square this week. Actually, wherever Cancer is, that's going to help us find the resolution. So actually there's like an opposition between the sun, which is like the direction you're supposed to go, and it's in Libra. It's trying to show you what relationships you need to be connected to or which way you need to go, but somehow it's in opposition to Chiron in Aries, which is very much about wounding old wounds from the past or an old behavior from the past, something that has to do with and take a look and see where is the Aries Libra axis, what two houses is that pulling on, because that's where the sun and Chiron are. Okay, and they're kind of opposite, so there's something about some old wounds that's holding you back. And so since that's happening right now, what the best answer is to lean into Cancer. Lean into the Cancer area, because that's where Jupiter is right now, trying to change your belief systems, trying to bring expansion for you, trying to bring you blessings or good luck, if you will. You need to lean into. That's where you need to reach out. So if you're having that opposition, if you're finding yourself doing self-sabotaging behaviors or being codependent, or just kind of finding yourself conflicted between those two kinds of things, where you're kind of like, gosh, Hollis, I'm just not sure what to do, lean into the Cancer part. So Cancer is all about what's underneath. What's underneath that hard shell of you. And with Jupiter there, it's very much about your home. It's very much about patriotism. So if you're feeling depressed, automatically I'm going to say, why are you depressed? Are you depressed because of the state of the world? If you're depressed because of the state of the world, then I'm going to say, get involved, get your hands dirty, find something to do to engage in that, educate yourself, because that's also a Cancer trait. Anything like that. Those are the kinds of things that T-square is going to intensify this weekend, Samantha. It's already been going on most of the week. I think it started actually last week, and it's kind of coming into more and more strength, especially as Jupiter starts to station and slow down, right? And so that means that maybe there could be some hiccups in that department, and we just need to be paying attention to that. And the best thing we can do right now is to lean into that part. And, Venus is in Libra, so that is very much speaking to relationships. So I'm sure it has something to do with relationships for most of us.
And I just want to add that right now, literally, the moon is in Cancer, it's at home, and it is conjunct Jupiter. So if you're feeling like there's a little extra juice right now, feelings wise, that could be why. Now understand that the moon right now is shedding, right? We're moving towards a new moon. So this is the time when we finishing up, we let go what doesn't serve us, pay attention to whatever garbage needs to be taken out, just take it out, no big deal. Jupiter and the moon are obviously in close proximity today. And then as we go forward, we don't have a new moon until next week, early next week, but that's the apex of the T-square we've been talking about. So the moon will move out away from Jupiter, but that T-square is going to continue all week, and it gets very strong Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I love what Hollis has been saying. We're all going to learn about Cancer this week, because Cancer has so much to teach us about what's going on inside. Let's get educated. How do I feel? What are my strong feelings? Cancer has really strong values around home and family. Sometimes they're values around tradition and patriotism and what feels good to them, what makes them feel safe and solid, right? So we're all going to learn about Cancer and that T-square. So what does that mean for you? How does that speak to your situation?
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys are welcome to check out this week's broadcast is posted on YouTube. Hopefully you've had a chance to review that. Hopefully you can check out your personal horoscope. All the horoscopes are posted. Of course, if you post your chart or ask a good question, I'll be happy to look it over for you. That's exactly what these question and answers are all about. It's the time for us to ask questions and to check in with you. So I hope you guys out there that are watching, if you have any questions about your astrology chart, this is the time to ask. And we're trying to make ourselves available to still answer questions. We do have a 101 class where you can astrology 101 that Bright Hawk was talking about a little bit earlier, and you can get 50% off. And there's even a guidebook that you like if you're new to this whole astrology thing and you're kind of like, Hollis, I have no idea what my rising is, my moon, my what? Huh? I don't know. All I know is okay, and usually it's your sun sign. And so most people know what their sun sign is, but there's a whole lot more to astrology than just that. In fact, astrology is so much deeper than your sun sign. It's kind of a funny thing that we focus so much on that because it's really only like the first, like maybe like first thing you meet about a person. Like Bright Hawk, when you first meet a person, you could probably be like, huh, I think they probably are a Leo. Oh, no, no, they're definitely a Scorpio or something like that, right? And so and so you get to know them. Once you get to know someone after just like a day or so, you hang out with them, you do an activity with them or something, then you're probably going to discover their rising sign. And if you ever get into any kind of relationship with that person, then you're going to experience their moon sign and any emotions, or you may also experience their Venus, which is their love language, and Mars, which is what happens when you piss them off. And so these are the things that slowly get uncovered. And so if you ever wondered about yourself, if you're ever like, what is really happening in my life? And what's interesting is I was listening to a client the other day tell me about, she's just barely 31, 32 years old. And she was saying how terrible her life was and how she was sure that she would never want to come back again. And how just generally how crappy her life was. And I just want to say, in astrology, we don't really see that your life has really began or you've really started to completely express your chart completely and grow into your chart and truly an adult until 30 years old. Why? That's because that is right after your Saturn returns. And your Saturn returns is the part of your life. It's a cycle, it's a big cycle that we're going through where we actually can learn. We actually learn something. Usually something happens that helps us sort of become aware or suddenly become um, aware of a part of ourselves or to behave differently. Maybe it just means we're able to keep a job even though we hate it or whatever like that. And those kinds of things do happen because Saturn is a teacher. It's also karmic. And so usually the lessons aren't easy during the Saturn returns. That's between the ages of 27 and 30. Sometimes it starts a little bit earlier. So if you're a little bit younger than 27, like 25, 26, and you're kind of like, what is going on? You're probably beginning your Saturn returns. And if you just got out and you just had 3 or 4 years of holy cow, what the hell? Okay. And you're like 31, 32, 33. That's what just happened. It was your Saturn returns. I really think they should educate kids in high school, really honestly. And then after their Saturn returns, then we start to actually express our charts fully and completely. And I just feel like once we understand ourselves better, we can first of all be more compassionate to ourselves. It's easier to find compassion for ourselves and be like, huh, well, the universe made me with this fiery temper or this super sensitive, no boundaries type of life, or this attraction to the unknown, or whatever it is. There's little things that we sometimes give ourselves a really hard time about. I know I did. I gave myself a really hard time about being a weirdo and being strange and being non-binary. And I was just like, there must be something wrong with me. I am so I am so overwhelmed and all of that kind of thing. And I mean, I wasn't until like I was like almost I was like 40 years old when I discovered my Saturn was on my I mean when Uranus was on my ascendant, and then I was like, "Oh, so wait a minute. I was made this way?" And that is when I was like, "Oh, okay." So, once you start to really look at your chart, that's really when you can really understand exactly who you are, who you're meant to be, and why you're here, and why this weird maybe you have some weird quirk like I do or something. And I think that that's really important to pay attention to that. Now, Samantha asked,
So,
go
and
ahead.
two things. I just want to jump in on that. And that's why getting an astrology reading is so valuable. Imagine how much time we could have saved Hollis before they turned 40 and realized that Uranus on the rising sign means it's exalted and it's strong and you're different and be proud and that's awesome. That's who you are. We give ourselves such a hard time and then we learn in our chart it's like, oh, so I'm supposed to be that way. So I'm actually trying to rub something out of me that's really who I am innately. Okay, make peace with that part of me. That's really important. That's a huge part of astrology. Now, Samantha asked a really good question, and it's a really easy answer. February 14th is when Saturn leaves Pisces and enters Aries. It's retrograding for quite a ways.
It goes direct November 29th.
But it enters Aries February 14th. Yeah, February 14th. So that's easy to remember. It's Valentine's Day. And it'll definitely change the tenor when Saturn goes from watery Pisces to fiery Aries. That's all about action. The very, very different Saturns. So really good question. Good job on asking a really good question.
What I also noticed was in the future, in the end of November, when Saturn does go direct, it's in a grand trine with Venus, which is in Scorpio, which isn't the best placement, but it's okay. Um, and it can be very intense about relationships. And then Jupiter, which is retrograde, but it's a grand trine with Saturn. So I'm not sure exactly what that will look like, but it is in a grand trine. So that's blessings. That means things coming together easily. And that's in the November 29th. Okay, so that's at the end of November as we start to enter into December. That I feel like you're gonna probably feel that, Samantha, when this is the last time Saturn will be in Pisces for another 27 years. Okay, so this is the last time it's going to be in this area. So when it turns around and goes direct in November, you're probably going to feel that, and then you'll feel it again. You'll feel probably a sense of relief or completion or a sense of closure or something as it gets to Aries. And you might even feel like a sense of marching on or going forward or even empowerment, depending on exactly what you're dealing with. Like it could definitely empower you. Saturn and Aries can absolutely empower people, because Aries is about the great warrior, it's about fighting, and it's about, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then Saturn is the teacher, but sometimes it can sometimes restrict things, okay? So I'm kind of hoping that it restricts the fight energy a little bit. I'm actually I'm actually kind of like, maybe it will restrict some of the fight energy, because sometimes I notice whatever house Saturn is transiting for me. So right now Saturn is kind of moving back and forth between Pisces and Aries. You should know where that is in your chart. Wherever that is, I tend to have some sort of restriction and growth in that area. For instance, this entire time Saturn has been in Pisces, I started homeschooling my children, my grandchildren, and that has sort of added some tension in some parts of my life and added growth in other areas. And it kind of goes back and forth. And I think eventually it will be just fine because I realize this is a bigger cycle, right? Sometimes things take a whole year to really show what the big cycle is. It takes a long time to really see what the cycle is. And I think that's part of the problem. I think that's part of the thing is like you kind of watch it unfold slowly over time. It could take a year or 2 years, right? Okay. And it depends on the planet, like I'm talking about with Pluto, right? Because Pluto also went direct today, Samantha. So Pluto its pattern is in Aquarius and it's pushing forward. And I'm kind of like, okay, so I guess I'm done with that part and it's going to go forward now. And for me, that's pretty important for me because it's right on the line of my third, fourth house. So, oh, oh, you know what it was, Angie? I know what it is because I know your chart, Angie. Angie, you know what it was? Angie said, I don't know what it was this September, but oh my God, what a horrible month. Glad it's finished. Angie, it was the eclipse. Yep. Oh man, there was a huge eclipse season in Virgo, and I'm pretty sure, Angie, you have a Virgo placement. I know you have a Scorpio placement, but I'm pretty sure you also have that, and that's pretty much what it was. It was an eclipse. I hope you're okay. I hope your family's okay. I always think about you really honestly every day, Angie, because you're a person that I care about that just happens to be a person that's important to me. And so I would just say, Angie, just so you know, I think about you all the time for obvious reasons. I'm sure you know what that reason is. And Angie, I don't want to announce it here in public. Um, yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh no. Angie says she was crying on her knees while a hailstorm was destroying the window roof of the house. Oh no. That's really, really hard, Angie. Ugh, that was probably Uranus and Gemini for you. Mm. Well, that's really tough, and I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that that had to happen for you. I probably put a lot of pressure on you, I'm sure. I can't imagine. That's so I always think about you, and I'm glad to hear you're okay. I'm always glad when you check in because I'm like, okay, good, she's still there. Okay, but I'm just saying that there was a huge eclipse going on in Virgo, and so that would have been like the Virgo Pisces thing. Plus, Uranus has been moving in and out of Gemini, and Gemini rules your house, Angie. It rules home for you. Okay, which totally makes sense. So, yeah, so, everyone, if I've ever done a reading for you, you're welcome to pop on and ask questions, and I'll take a look at your chart real quick and try to give you some insight, especially if it's going really rough for you. Um, and just keep and check out this week's horoscopes. So you want to check for your sun and your rising. You want to check both of them. The horoscopes are on YouTube, so you can check those out. They are posted, and if you just scroll up in whatever page or whatever you're watching this on, there's a comment from me with a link directly to this week's horoscope. Angie said yes a lot. Now in October, we received good news from the doctor about the baby. Don't listen to the doctors, as I told you. Well, I'm glad that I was right. I think it was just meant to be a little scary. That's all. Sometimes I think that sometimes those worries and things make us a little bit more grateful for the life that we have, I think. And we don't take things for granted, I think, sometimes. So I'm glad to hear that your baby and your grandbaby and your family's okay. That is beautiful news to me, news to my ears, actually. So um anyway, I think that pretty much wraps up our live for today. Unless anyone has any more questions, we are happy to address them. As I mentioned, you can go to the YouTube page and you can get the astrology forecast, and that's available on the website on YouTube. And it's also if you look at the shorts on that same YouTube channel, you'll be able to see all of the horoscopes. So I hope that you check in, get your horoscope this week, listen to it, make sure you comment on it, let us know. Let us know all about how things have been going for you. If the horoscope happens for you, make sure you come back and comment. Let us know. Or if something manifests out of it, or maybe the guidance helps you find your way. I'm grateful to hear about that. It's always nice to know that you're doing okay, especially when I care about you guys. So just saying, okay? Big love to all of you.
We wish you all the best. Thanks for listening to Rainbow Soulstrology, where we try to be a bridge between you and the stars. Have a great week. Thank you so much for liking and sharing and subscribing. It really helps a lot. Have a great week.